Hello, everyone. It's time. It's time. Shall we do this? I hope everyone's had a good amount of caffeine and drink, and shall we do some content stuff? Yeah? Okay. Hello. Thank you very much for coming to see my talk. I know you had options today, and I'm really glad you came to see mine. I am a bit nervous, so if I go too quickly, just go like that at me, and I'll slow down a bit. So, my name is Kenyon. This is me. As you can see, slightly thinner on screen than in real life, but I am a content strategist from the UK. I have been doing this for about 15 years. I've worked with large companies, like charities like Cancer Research, companies like Orange Telecoms, banks, you name it. I have worked with a lot of them, and it's all been about getting content strategy adopted in those organizations. And I tell you, it has been hard work. Don't underestimate yourself. If you're feeling like you've come today because you're stuck and you've tried getting content strategy adopted, it's hard work. You're not alone. It's really hard work. And I think, to be honest, I think the first 3 years that I was doing it, I felt like I was doing everything I could, and then I just kept running into this glass door of, going as fast as I could, thinking I was doing the right things, and every time. And it's painful, and it hurts. It's like actually running into a glass door. You feel embarrassed and angry and frustrated. And part of the reason is that you kind of think, well, why is this happening? Whenever I talk to people about content strategy, they never disagree with it. No one I've ever met has disagreed with the idea of content strategy. It's a good thing. And yet, when it comes to getting it funded, no, they've given the money to someone else. And you're thinking, what am I doing wrong here? I've got this brilliant thing. Why are you giving the money to the SEO team or to the sales team? Why is this happening? I think part of the problem is this. Yeah, we're on the list, but we're at the bottom. And that's the problem, is that nobody disagrees with the idea of content strategy, but nobody currently outside of this room, perhaps, would actually put that above other projects in your organization. And that's the problem, right? So the talk I want to have you today is about getting up the list. It may not get you as far as the boardroom, but it would definitely get you as far as the elevator, okay? So this is about understanding how you make sure that people get what you're doing, support you, and get you further up the list so that you get the funding and the political air cover you need to do the work. Because that's the frustrating thing about it. You're thinking, seriously, I could be doing work right now, but here I am trying to get something adopted instead. So if you're thinking, God, this sounds like hard work and it sounds like really not me, I have some good news for you, which is actually, in hindsight, I discovered that getting content strategy adopted uses exactly the same skills that we would use in actual content strategy practice. You just don't really think about it when you're doing it. Looking back, I feel really quite stupid that I didn't figure this out earlier, but I promise you today I'm going to show you how you use all the skills you currently have in order to get adoption. Right, so we're going to start. I have 10 things, 10 tricks, 10 shortcuts to show you. The first 5 are about preparation. There are the things you would do before you start talking to people in your organization about content strategy. And the next 5 are when you're actually in flight. So let's start. I am assuming before we start, by the way, that you have done your research. You have looked at your sites. You have looked at you understand what needs to happen, what needs to change. You have a strategy, a plan, a set of projects that you want to deliver, right? So you've done that basic work. What's the first thing you've got to do? Is audit your audience. And I know you're thinking, yeah, okay, I've done my user research. I know what people need. No. When it comes to getting content strategy adopted in an organization, the audience that matters most is actually internal, not external. And I know that sounds completely screwy, but unless you work in a very, very customer-centric organization, and I'll be honest, I've never worked in one of those. It's true. Customers are clicks on a screen, okay? What businesses really do is they do this. They go, yeah. Or you go in when you go, I've got my customer research and it says this. And they go, yeah, but what about us? And that is the reality of it, is that the most powerful audience you need to look at first is actually internal. And for this, use your auditing skills. Use the same skills that you would use when you talk to customers, when you talk to website users, and say, okay, what are your needs? What do you do? I mean, I have a form. This is like a basic version. If people want like longer versions, filled in versions, tweet me. I have them. I'm nice and I'm normal and I share stuff. So I will, when you look at your content problems, see how well they mesh in with the needs of your internal audience. Understand what it is that their problems are, that they need to solve. You know, do your stakeholder interviews internally as well as externally. And every time you're looking at it, you're thinking, right, how does this actually mesh with what I want to do? What problems am I going to be solving internally as well as externally? I mean, you have to be realistic when you do this. Keep checking yourself and saying, well, is this actually a problem for anyone but me? You know, there are certain times, I know we all do this, where we get like little pet projects that we'd really like to do. And if they're not business relevant to anyone, you may as well just be realistic with yourself and park it until you can make it business relevant. Ask yourself, is this the right time? Are these the right people? What am I going to solve for them? It's a good place to start because you'll suddenly understand what is relevant and useful and meaningful to your organisation. And the second thing is, once you've found out who's in most pain and how you can help them, don't tell them tell them what you're going to do to fix it, but not how. In fact, I'm actually going to go as far as to say this. Stop talking about content strategy. Right? Don't talk about how content strategy is going to fix everything. We've heard it referred to as a buzzword downstairs. Don't let it be a buzzword. Let it be a doing thing. And the best way to do that is to stop talking about it and saying, oh, you should read Halverson, you should read Bloomstein, you should read this, that, and the other. That's your job. Go do that piece and then frame it in the language of your organisation. You actually need to make this name the solution in their terms, not yours. I'll give you an example of this. When I worked at Expedia, which was a few years ago, I can remember the first time I actually did this and got this right. I sat down with a product manager and I said to her, I was pushing for structured content to deal with our awful translations, which were, particularly the German ones, were really, really bad. And I sat down with the manager for Germany and said, rather than saying what I had been saying before, saying, oh, we need structured content, it will improve our translation, it will decrease the number of customer complaints we get, it will do this, this, and this. I said, I can help you reach your sales targets twice as fast. And she went, oh, great, when do we start? And I was like, okay, right, that's a lot easier than I thought. I'd named the problem hadn't changed. I just named it in her terms, not mine. And like I say, this is a skill that we already do every day when we talk to customers, when we write content. We write things in the language of our audience. Do that internally as well, and you'll find that you get a lot further. The third thing is, once you've found the people and you've started getting them on side, find the ones who are influential and talk to them about becoming your sponsor. This is, again, something we know from content marketing, from anything. If you've got a hot topic, what makes it even hotter? Find someone who's important to talk about it. Then you get everyone's attention. When you are auditing your audience, you will naturally see the people who have got influence in your organisation, the people who are on the up, the people who have more influence than their job title would suggest. Yes, I know this politics thing is frustrating and stupid, and it's everywhere. So you may as well use it. When you look at the content projects that you have, find the ones that will directly benefit people who with a big mouth and get them to talk about it. If you say to them, look, I want to do this project, it will bring you all these magical things, but I need either money or political sway from you. Will you help me? If there's lots in it for them, they tend to go, yeah, okay, that's a doable thing. All right? It kind of looks a bit like this. You know, you're offside. You know, I'm not even on the screen when this happens. They're going, we need this, and everyone's going, oh yeah, you're right, so right, we do need this. It saves you having to do all the work yourself as well, because content strategy is a team sport, whether we like it or not. The actual adoption piece takes more than you. You need to find those sponsors. When you find your sponsors, you have to kind of use when you're selling magical new tomorrows, you have to remind them of the pain of today as well. People are motivated by the self-interest, as we heard earlier, but they are also really damn lazy. They hate change to the point of indolence. They will avoid change wherever possible. And you have to remind them just how much pain they are in sometimes. Even the influencers, even the people who will directly benefit from what you are doing, they need a prod with a stick. You need to push them and pull them at the same time so that people understand what it is they're getting. Again, this is persuasion skills that you use every day when you write copy, when you point out to people how things suck and how things could be better, and how you are the person to get them from one to the other. These are skills you already have. So the next thing I want to tell you is the thing you're going to find easiest out of all of this is if you've surveyed your landscape, if you know what's important in your company, who will help you, what you need to tell them in order to do it, tell them a story. We are all storytellers. It is human nature to tell stories. And all of us, I would say, regardless of how we came into content strategy, started from a background of words and reading and enjoyment of stories. People don't change just because they're in business. They don't stop loving stories. Take everything you've found and write it into a simple narrative that they can understand, and then tell that story again and again and again, everywhere in your organisation, be it personally, be it a blog, be it newsletters. Tell people repeatedly what your ambitions are in one sentence so they know what the story is, and they will repeat it and it will become internalised. And this is how you gain advocates for what you do outside of your own department. Some notes on storytelling. A lot of this will not be a surprise to you, but it's worth remembering because I certainly didn't apply it internally as soon as I should have done. If you have a story that you can tell with words, not pictures, then tell it with pictures, not words. Tell it with pictures. People don't read. They don't read on websites and they don't read PowerPoint presentations either. That's partly why I drew mine, because actually, what goes in is pictures. What goes in is simple information. So tell your story in words, not in pictures. If you find it difficult to translate from words to images, this book is excellent. I believe it's available in lots of different languages as well. Dan Rome taught me how to visually describe what I do. He obviously clearly didn't teach me to draw, but there's only so much you can learn from a book. It was a lot easier to explain things to people, particularly C-level, particularly if you're talking about senior management. They would much rather see a picture, even a hand-drawn diagram, than they would bullet points. Also, I'm going to answer fast. When we're talking about pictures, we're also talking about diagrams, and then we're talking about numbers. Numbers matter when people make business decisions, but not necessarily as much as you've been led to believe. Numbers, when you're talking about numbers, what you need to do is find the important numbers within your organisation. They will vary according to where you are. It could be share of market, it could be share of voice, it could be revenue, it could be turnover. They're all different things and they all have different priorities within a company. What I suggest you do, what you need to do is find the ones that are important. Not all of them, just the ones that are important to your company. The ones that, dreadful business language, but they shift the needle, as I had a boss who used to say, things that make a difference. If you don't know what they are and you don't quite know how to make that number tie into the work that you're doing, find a finance person and get friendly with them. They're usually really happy to talk to you about what they do and what's important in the company, and they're likely to make any kind of trade, basically, in order to find out a little bit more. They find it interesting. If you don't have a finance person, if you're an agency or you're working on your own, this book also useful in teaching you just what the numbers could be, and then trying to understand how they could relate to the work that you are doing, because that's actually what you need to show, is that your work is relevant to the numbers which are important in your organisation. After that, this should get you as far as about getting people excited. This will get people as far as starting to think, yeah, this might happen. But if you actually want to change behaviour, if you want to get people away from doing it the way they've always done it, you need to spark imagination. And that sounds like really difficult, but you have to understand, it is very difficult for people to imagine the future, to imagine what it will look like when content strategy is part of your organisation. It's kind of, I don't understand it. But it is possible. You need to show them what the future looked like. Not tell them, but show them. I had a really good CTO who showed me how to do this. We needed to do a really difficult technical architecture project involving a lot of cost and expense and no particular immediate benefit for it. And what he did was to show them the future, dudes. He brought in a very cool guy from a similar company to ours who'd already done the work that needed to be doing. And they came in and said, it's great, it's easy, love it, you'll love it, it's brilliant, we're all happy now, everything's sunshine, all right? And after that, people kind of got it. They could see where they needed to go. They could understand what the future looked like. So that was one of the most valuable lessons I learned, is to show people what the future looks like when you've got this adopted. The first thing is sell your success. The minute you start getting any adoption, start asking for a lot more money immediately. All right. If you had a piece of content go viral, if you're in marketing, what would you do? You'd resell it, repackage it, and then you go back to your client and ask for a ton more money to do the same thing again, like stat. Do the same thing with content. Don't sit there and go, that's money in the bank, I'll spend it later. Spend it then. For every project that you have, make sure you've got a set of like ballpark figures and some project timelines against it, because when that happens and people go, yes, we want to do it, you have to be ready. You have to have the money, you have to have the plan, because the first thing they'll say is how, and then they'll say how much and how and when. So have answers ready, even if they're just ballpark. Doesn't matter. Just ballpark is fine. Keep listening. Most powerful weapon you have when it comes to making sure you stay relevant and you persuade people into what you want to do. People change, audiences change, companies change. Content strategy is a long-term rinse, repeat, develop, change, audit, re-audit type of process. So you need to keep listening to your internal audiences as much as your external audiences to make sure you stay relevant. But play a long game. I can't stress this one enough, because I actually finally, when I was at Expedia, I finally actually got to the CEO. I finally got to the boardroom and I explained what I needed to do. And they said, yes, let's do that. And I went, yeah. And then they said, yeah, but you're number 7 on the list. And I thought, God, number 7. Oh, it's a disaster. But it wasn't. It's just that the first 6 things on that, they were actually more important than content strategy. Content strategy doesn't cure cancer, unfortunately. It doesn't cure for a technical architecture that's broken. It doesn't cure for a bad product mix. If you're selling the wrong things to the wrong people, content strategy really won't fix that long term. So if there are more important projects in your company, accept that. Don't get frustrated. Keep going. Keep trying to get to number 6, number 5. I actually had I had an email from my old colleague at Expedia last week to say that my structured content project did go through. It went through 2 years after I left, but it did go through. So it takes a long time. All right, I've been told I have like 2 minutes left, so I can give you my last trick. And if there's one that you don't have today, then this is probably the one, is belief. Belief in your ability to deliver what you're proposing and actually make it a reality in organizations. I hope I've proved to you today that actually you have the technical skills that you need to do this. You can use all the skills you already have to get you to that point. But people believe in a person, not a project. When it comes to, you talk to like VCs or investors, they're all about the person. The project's like 30% of it. The person is the rest of it. And that is the thing that I think if we have to do anything, we have to really work on that, is actually you need to see yourself delivering this project. And if you're thinking, oh, you know what, I'd really just rather do the technical stuff and I don't know if it's me. No, it's you, all right? It really is you. If not you, then who else? We have the technical skills that we need. We really care about the content that we're producing. We care about the users. We are the best people to make a content strategy adopted in our organisations. And you have to believe that, because without you, this is where it will fail. But I believe you can do it. So that is all I have time for today. Thank you very much for listening to me.